Hi, everyone. My name is Ivan. When my wife joked that I was her second choice, I did something she never thought I would do. I met Claire during what I'd later understand was the worst possible time. I was 28, working as an accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown. Claire, on the other hand, was 26, working for a marketing agency. We were introduced by a mutual friend who worked with Claire. I took the lead and tried to start a conversation with Claire. I asked the usual getting-to-know-you questions. Her answers were polite but brief. She'd glance away mid-conversation, like she was looking for an escape route. After about 10 minutes of me carrying the conversation alone, she excused herself to talk to someone else. Not the most encouraging start, but I didn't take it personally. Maybe she just wasn't interested. Fair enough. But over the following months, I kept seeing her at various social events in our overlapping friend circles. Each time, I'd try to engage her in conversation. Each time, she'd be distant but not quite rude. Flaky in a way that felt less like disinterest and more like self-protection. I asked her out for coffee once. She said yes, but canceled on the morning of that day with a vague excuse about not feeling well. I tried again a couple of weeks later. She said she'd let me know, then never did. My friends told me to give up, that she clearly wasn't interested, and I was wasting my time. But something about her pulled at me, like she was hurting and hiding it, and if someone could just reach her, she'd be different. About 2 months after we first met, the mutual friend who introduced us revealed to me that Claire had just gotten out of a 6-year relationship. Her ex-boyfriend had been with her since their junior year of college. They'd lived together, talked about getting married, and planned a future together. Then, about 8 months before I met Claire, Jason had left her for her best friend since high school. The two people Claire had trusted most in the world had betrayed her in the worst possible way. Claire's ex-boyfriend and her best friend got married just 2 months ago. That's how recent and raw this still was. From all these revelations, it was clear that Claire was a mess. Couldn't trust anyone, especially men. Saw betrayal everywhere. My friend who told me about this meant it as a warning. A way of saying Claire wasn't emotionally available, and I should probably move on. But I took it differently. I understood now why Claire was so guarded. She'd been devastated by 2 people she loved. Of course, she had walls up. Of course, she was flaky and distant. But I wasn't her ex-boyfriend. I wasn't the type of person who'd betray someone like that. If she'd just give me a chance, I could show her that not all men were like her ex. I could love her the way she deserved, help her heal, and prove that trust could be rebuilt. So I didn't give up. I kept pursuing her, but differently. More patiently. Less pressure. I'd text her occasional funny things or interesting articles, not requiring responses. I'd remember small details she'd mentioned in passing and follow up on them. Slowly, over several more months, Claire started to soften. She began responding to texts more frequently, started accepting my invitations more often, opened up slightly about her feelings, though she rarely mentioned her ex or best friend directly. After about 5 months of this patience pursuit, we officially started dating. But even as we became a couple, I could see she wasn't fully present. She was with me physically, but part of her remained stuck in the past. She'd mention her boyfriend's name regularly despite claiming she didn't want to hear it. Would compare things I did to things he used to do. She'd cry sometimes for no apparent reason. When I'd ask what was wrong, she'd say she was just emotional or stressed about work. But I knew better. My friends continued warning me. Said she wasn't ready for a new relationship. That I was setting myself up to be a rebound or a consolation prize. I dismissed their concerns, told them they didn't understand, that Claire just needed time and patience, that my love would help her move on from her ex and learn to trust again. I was convinced that with enough effort, enough care, enough consistency, she'd finally let go of her past and fully embrace what we had. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Those 2 years had plenty of ups and downs. Good periods where Claire seemed genuinely happy and present, showing affection freely. During these times, I'd feel validated. She seems to be getting over her ex and warming up to me. Then there'd be difficult periods where she'd withdraw emotionally. Spend days being distant and cold. Pick fights over nothing. Bring up her ex in arguments, comparing me unfavorably to him. During these times, I'd tell myself it was just part of the healing process. Trauma doesn't disappear overnight. She needed more time, more patience, more understanding from me. By our second year together, the good periods seemed to outweigh the bad. Or maybe I'd just gotten better at rationalizing the bad ones. I proposed to her on a weekend trip to the coast. Simple, but romantic. She said yes immediately. Seemed genuinely excited. We planned the wedding for the following year. Claire engaged enthusiastically in the process, choosing venues, picking colors, trying on dresses. I took this as confirmation that she was finally ready. Finally over her ex. Finally fully committed to me. We got married in our third year together. Our vows felt meaningful. It seemed like a fresh start for both of us. I felt hopeful about our future. Believed that marriage would solidify what we built. The formal commitment would help her feel more secure. The first several months of marriage were reasonably good. We had a honeymoon phase, more affectionate, more connected, more optimistic about our shared future. But by the second year of marriage, cracks started appearing. Small fights became more frequent. Arguments about how we communicated, or rather how we didn't. Disagreements about intimacy. She'd pull away when I'd initiate, claim she wasn't in the mood more often than not. Conflicts over household responsibilities that shouldn't have been major issues, but somehow became battles. Our emotional connection started dulling. Conversations became more surface level. We'd spend evenings in the same room, but doing separate things, barely interacting. Affection became rare. Arguments escalated more quickly than they used to. Small issues would blow up into bigger fights. We'd both get defensive faster, and resolution would become harder to reach. Claire would often claim I didn't understand her anymore, that I'd changed since we got married, that I didn't listen to her needs or see her clearly. From my perspective, I felt increasingly unappreciated. I worked hard to provide financial stability for us. Made sacrifices, turned down a job opportunity that would have required relocation because Claire didn't want to move. Tried to be supportive and understanding even when she was difficult. But nothing seemed enough. She was perpetually restless, perpetually dissatisfied. Always finding something wrong, never quite content. I was getting tired. Tired of the mood swings, tired of feeling like I was failing her somehow. Tired of working so hard to maintain a marriage that felt increasingly one-sided. But I stayed committed. Told myself that all marriages go through rough patches. That we just needed to push through this period. Then came Claire's birthday. I was exhausted from recent conflicts and her mood swings. Part of me just wanted to do something small and simple. But it was a milestone birthday, and despite everything, I wanted to do something special for her. I decided to plan a surprise party at our house. I contacted an event planner who specialized in home parties. Explained what I wanted, elegant but not over the top, intimate gathering with close friends, Claire's favorite foods, meaningful decorations. The event planner and I planned everything over 2 weeks. She'd come to the house while Claire was at work, take measurements, show me decoration options, and coordinate with the caterer I'd hired. The plan was for everything to be set up on the evening of Claire's birthday while she was at work. I'd leave work early to oversee the setup. Friends would arrive and hide. Claire would come home to a complete surprise. I hired a caterer who prepared multiple dishes, including all of Claire's favorites. I had the event planner decorate with string lights, fresh flowers, and photo collages of Claire throughout her life. I invited about 25 people, our close friends, some of her co-workers, a few family members who lived nearby. Everything was meant to show how much I cared, how much thought I'd put into celebrating her. Maybe remind her of what we had together, rekindle some of the warmth that had been missing. The day of the party, I left work at 3. Got home to find the event planner and her team already there, turning our living room and dining room into something beautiful. By 6, everything was perfect. String lights glowed warmly. Flowers are arranged beautifully on every surface. Food was laid out elegantly on our dining table. Photo collages displayed on easels showing Claire's life, childhood photos, college pictures, and photos of us together. Guests started arriving at 6:30. By 7:15, everyone was there, hidden in various rooms, lights dimmed, waiting. Claire typically got home around 7:30 p.m. Like clockwork, I heard her car pull into the driveway at 7:18. I positioned myself near the front door, phone ready to signal everyone. Claire walked up to the door, keys jingling, opened it to a darkened house. She stepped inside, confused, reaching for the light switch. I flipped the lights on from where I stood. Everyone jumped out yelling, "Surprise!" Claire's hands flew to her mouth. Her eyes went wide with genuine shock. She looked around at all the people, the decorations, and the food, taking it all in. Tears filled her eyes. She looked at me with such emotion that I felt a surge of hope. Maybe this would be the thing that brought us back together. She hugged me tightly, thanking me repeatedly. Said she couldn't believe I'd done all this. It was amazing that she felt so loved. The evening proceeded beautifully. Friends mingling, eating, laughing. Claire was genuinely happy and relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. She moved from group to group, hugging people, thanking them for coming, and showing them around the decorations. Around 9, we gathered everyone for cake cutting. Claire stood next to me while I lit the candles. Everyone sang happy birthday. She blew them out, made a wish, and cut the first slice. Then she gave a brief thank you speech. Thanked everyone for coming, for being part of her life. Thanked me specifically for the surprise, for putting so much thought into it. Said she felt lucky to have me. I felt genuine hope in that moment. Maybe we'd turned a corner. Maybe this would remind her of why we'd gotten married in the first place. After cake, everyone settled in for dinner. Some at the dining table, others in the living room with plates on their laps. Conversation flowed easily, and everyone was relaxed and happy. I was sitting at the dining table next to Claire. Her friend sat across from us, along with a few other people. The friend looked at Claire with a warm smile and said casually, "You really locked down a good one." She meant me, meant the surprise party and everything I'd done. Claire laughed and then said, "Yeah, I guess my second choice wasn't so bad after all." Everyone at the table laughed. Some awkwardly, some genuinely. Most assumed it was self-deprecating humor or playful teasing. I didn't laugh. I sat completely still. Everything around me suddenly felt distant, like I was hearing it all underwater. Second choice? After 3 years of dating, where I'd been patient with her grief over her ex. After 2 years of marriage, where I'd tried to be understanding and supportive. After planning this elaborate surprise to show her how much I cared. I was her second choice. The thoughts in my head drown out the laughter around me. All the times she'd compared me to her ex. All the times she'd seemed distant and preoccupied. It all made horrible, perfect sense now. I hadn't been chosen because she wanted me. I'd been chosen because her ex wasn't available. I was the backup plan, the consolation prize, the one who was there after her first choice married someone else. Claire didn't notice my expression as she kept talking. Then finally, she changed the subject to something else. For the rest of the evening, I went through the motions. Thanked people for coming as they left. Helped clean up. Responded when spoken to. But I was completely numb inside. The last guests left around 11. The house fell quiet after hours of noise and laughter. Claire started cleaning up, chattering happily about how fun the party had been. How sweet it was that I'd planned everything. How touched she was by specific moments. I helped clean silently, putting away leftover food, taking down decorations, and loading the dishwasher. Claire noticed my mood and asked if I was okay. I took a few deep breaths, putting my thoughts together. Then I asked her why she would address me as her second choice in public. She immediately got defensive, telling me that I can't even recognize a joke if I see one. I looked her in the eyes before saying okay and walked away. I went to the guest room, closed the door, and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. I didn't sleep much that night, just analyzing every moment of our relationship through this new lens. Recognized all the signs my friends pointed out I'd ignored or rationalized away. Over the following days, I became emotionally distant. I still lived in the house, still helped with chores and maintained our routine, still was polite and civil. But I was cold, detached. No affection, minimal conversation, beyond logistics. Claire noticed that I wasn't going to let this slide like the usuals. She apologized. I was surprised she did, because she never apologizes if she's wrong. Even though I was taken aback that she apologized, I barely responded. She suggested couples counseling. I agreed half-heartedly, more to stop the conversation than because I thought it would help. We attended 2 sessions. I participated minimally, answering the therapist's questions with brief responses, but not engaging meaningfully. The therapist couldn't break through my walls. I was already considering ending the marriage at that point. Claire stopped suggesting counseling after the 2nd session. Internally, I was deteriorating. My trust in her was completely shattered. I questioned everything about our relationship. I couldn't accept her affection as genuine anymore. Saw everything through the lens of that comment. Several weeks after the birthday party, we had a minor disagreement about something trivial. I don't even remember what started it. The disagreement escalated slightly. Claire was getting frustrated with my continued emotional distance. Finally, she snapped. Said I was still holding one mistake over her head. That one joke shouldn't define our entire marriage. I stopped what I was doing, looked at her, and said, "It wasn't a mistake, Claire. It was the truth escaping before you could cage it." She asked what I meant. I explained that her comment had revealed how she truly felt. That she may love me in her way, but I would never be her first choice. I'd always be the consolation prize, the backup plan, the one she settled for when her ex married her best friend. I told her I couldn't live with that. Couldn't spend the rest of my life knowing I was second best. Claire started crying, saying she chose to marry me. I shook my head, told her choosing me wasn't the same as wanting me. She chose stability, comfort, safety. Someone who'd treat her well after her ex hadn't. But her heart had stayed with her ex. It probably always would. Claire couldn't deny this convincingly. Her silence was answer enough. Within the next 2 weeks, I filed for divorce. Claire was devastated, but not entirely surprised. She tried to convince me to reconsider, saying we could work through this if I'd just try. But I was completely resolved. Nothing she could say would change my mind. During the divorce proceedings, I discovered something that confirmed everything. Claire had been in contact with her ex throughout our marriage. Her ex had moved to the Portland area about a year ago. They lived only 45 minutes from us. Claire had never mentioned this to me. Never told me her ex lived nearby. Had been seeing him occasionally, texting about their lives, and maintaining contact. When I confronted her about this, she claimed they were just friends now. That it didn't mean anything. That she was allowed to have friendships. To me, it was the final confirmation. She would never place me first. Would always keep a door open for her ex, even if just emotionally. Would always be waiting for him to realize he made a mistake choosing her best friend over her. The divorce proceeded without much contest. We divided assets fairly evenly. No children to complicate matters. The process took about 8 months total. It was finalized on a gray Tuesday afternoon. We both signed papers and walked out separately without speaking. I moved to a different neighborhood. Smaller apartment, fresh start. I focused on rebuilding my life. Work, friends, and hobbies I'd neglected during the marriage. I started seeing a therapist to process everything. The therapist helped me understand that Claire's issues weren't my fault. She'd come into our relationship already broken. I couldn't fix her, and I shouldn't have tried. Her inability to fully choose me reflected her brokenness, not my inadequacy. I loved Claire genuinely. I tried to be the partner she needed, believed my patience and consistency would eventually help her choose me fully. But after hearing those words at night, I could never forget that I was her second choice. And that's not something you can unhear. Not something you can rationalize away or forgive through sheer willpower. I spent a lot of time after the divorce thinking about what I could have done differently. Should I have walked away earlier when the signs were obvious? Should I have confronted her about her ex more directly? Should I have pushed harder in counseling? But eventually, I realized those questions missed the point entirely. The problem wasn't what I did or didn't do. The problem was that I'd spent 3 years trying to earn a place in someone's heart that was already occupied. Claire had never fully let go of her ex. Not when we started dating. Not when we got married. Not even when she was texting him behind my back. I'd mistaken her grief for something that time could heal. Thought my love could fill the space her ex left. Believed that if I was just patient enough, understanding enough, devoted enough, she'd eventually see me for who I was. But you can't compete with someone's fantasy of what might have been. You can't win against the idealized version of a relationship that ended before it could fail. Her ex-boyfriend would always be perfect in Claire's mind because she never had to live with his flaws long-term. Never had to navigate real marriage with him. The boring routines, the difficult conversations, the compromises and frustrations that come with building a life together. I was real, present, available, and in her eyes, that made me ordinary, safe, second best. The birthday party had been my attempt to remind her of what we had, to show her I was worth choosing, to prove my love through grand gestures and thoughtful details. But grand gestures can't change how someone fundamentally sees you. And that comment had revealed exactly how she saw me. Now, looking back on my marriage to Claire from the distance of several years and a healthier relationship, I can see it all clearly. Claire wasn't a bad person. She was just broken in ways I couldn't fix. Damaged by her ex-boyfriend's betrayal in ways that made her unable to fully commit to anyone else. She probably did love me in her capacity to love. But her capacity was limited by the space her ex still occupied in her heart. And I wasn't wrong to try to help her heal. Patience and understanding are good things in relationships. Where I went wrong was accepting less than I deserved. Settling for being someone's safe option instead of their passionate choice. Convincing myself that time would change something fundamental that time couldn't change. All the other issues in our marriage stemmed from that central truth. She was in a marriage with someone she'd settled for. And I was in a marriage with someone who'd never fully chosen me. That's not a foundation you can build on. Not a problem you can solve through communication, counseling, or romantic gestures. It's just fundamentally broken from the start. And I've learned, painfully, that being someone's second choice is worse than being alone. It's better to be single than to be settled for. Better to wait for someone who actually wants you than to spend years trying to earn a place in someone's heart that's already occupied. Everyone deserves to be someone's first choice. Their passionate, clear, unequivocal choice. I wasn't that for Claire. And once I finally accepted that truth, leaving became the only option that made sense.